Hello and welcome. You're watching News Central Television. I am Judith at TV. It's time for News Central now, and here are the top stories of this hour. Nigeria's ruling party, APC, denies granting automatic tickets to National Assembly members ahead of the 2027 general elections. Chief of Army Staff relocates to Benue State as attacks by armed herders claim nearly 100 lives in 1 week. And outside of our shores, 2 suspected terrorists killed in bomb explosion in Uganda. Details shortly. And we'll begin with security news as the Chief of Army Staff, Lieutenant General Olufemi Oluyede, has relocated to Makurdi, the Benue State capital, over the incessant killings of innocent villagers by herders and militia groups. The killings, which are becoming almost a daily occurrence, have left many dead, several others injured and maimed, as well as several houses burnt, leaving many homeless. Nearly 100 persons have been killed in the past week alone. General Oluyede, accompanied by top officials from Army headquarters, arrived from Abuja on Tuesday to assess the deteriorating security situation firsthand. As part of immediate measures, he has ordered the deployment of additional troops across flashpoints in the state, with a mandate to decisively engage and neutralize criminal elements responsible for the ongoing terror. He's also expected to chair high-level strategic meetings with operational commanders in Benue, reviewing current military operations and charting a new course for restoring security in the embattled state. Meanwhile, Governor Hyacinth Alia has directed a full-scale joint security operation into Apa and Gwar West local government areas in a bid to stop the escalating violence that has claimed more than 20 lives. Speaking to journalists after an emergency security council meeting at the government house on Monday, the governor confirmed that 12 people were killed in Apa and another 11 in Gwar West. Alia condemned the attacks in strong words, describing them as unacceptable and deeply troubling. He assured residents that security forces have been mobilized and are already on the ground to secure the affected communities. He also noted that casualty figures may change as operations continue, with teams directed to sweep through the area, assess the damage, and work to restore peace and order. Joining us now is E. Jonathan Ichavua. She joins me live in the studio. She is the co-convener of the influential Middle Belt Concern, comprising some 77 groups in the North Central. E, many thanks for joining me.
Thank you for having me.
I must say, this is a very saddening news about the deaths and the numbers of killings that we're seeing in Benue, and it seems to be continuing in spite of all that's happening. Is there going to be a lasting solution now that we've seen the deployment, more additional deployments of troops to this flashpoint, but most importantly, the relocation of the Army Chief?
I'm very sorry to say, as I was watching and reading that news earlier today, it all sounds so familiar. We've heard all of this before. These attacks began 2009 and they've been ramping up. 2014, for example, they actually were at high pitch. 2015, 2016, and same thing. Army said they were going there. The then Chief of Army Staff, it was actually the Inspector General of Police, went there, lodged in Benue hotels, and they would foray out in the morning, come back. They were not in the key epicenters. Makurdi is not the epicenter of the violence. They just mentioned, the governor mentioned Apa and Gwe West local governments. You've got Agatu, you've got Kwande. In fact, Benue has about 23 local governments. Of those 23 local governments, only 3 are relatively safe. All the others are occupied either by terrorists, bandits, military groups, and all sorts. This has been going on for a very long time. There's been a failure of intelligence, and I think one of the key things beyond the show, I think the general feeling amongst the groups in the Middle Belt and the local population is one of trepidation, because we've had all this show before where they will come, the military are coming. And sometimes when the military comes in, yes, they may arrest a few, but if they're not using intelligence to get the people who are truly behind this. Because beyond just displacing and killing the people, we know there's illegal mining activities going on. in places like Gwe, in places like Kwandi, where we know there's gold. We also know that there are other minerals. There's lead, there's graphite. We're very aware of this. And sometimes those things are moved out. And even though the governor had made some moves to stop that, this is extremely all interconnected. And we want to know who is behind this. Who are these killers? Who is funding them? They come with serious heavy-grade weapons.
All right.
And so it's not just about the soldiers just getting there and doing this. We need the intelligence. We need the people who are behind this. Arrested, tried, prosecuted, and imprisoned.
So, I mean, it now begs to ask the question that the reason why, what then could be the reason why there's no long-lasting solution to the problem? Because you're saying that all of those measures that we've seen has happened before in the past, and nothing has changed.
Absolutely.
They haven't been deployed to the epicenters, and mining is also at the core of the issue here. Why is there no long-lasting solution? Is it a case of political will, or lack of intelligence, or a triad that we're not seeing?
I think there's, to an extent, a lack of political will. These killings have been going on for a long time. I'm actually surprised that the governor is only mentioning Apa and Gwe West. We have killings in Kwande. We have killings in Guma. We have killings in Agatu. Ask the governor himself whether when those attacks happen, if he even goes there. And this is our governor. This is the person the people voted overwhelmingly for. I know Governor Alia was not rigged into office, because the people were solidly, at least a majority of the people, were solidly behind him. Yet, the attacks happen, he hardly goes there. This is somebody whose heart is supposed to be close to the people. And then behaves as if a few weeks ago, I don't know if you heard the story, his own security aide, his special aide on security, came and said Benue was peaceful. There's a clip making the rounds on Facebook where he himself went to the presidency and said Benue was peaceful. So how come we've had this thing is ratcheting up so much that nothing has happened? So one, I think there's a lack of political will, not only on the part of the state government, of course the local government also begs the question, which the Middle Belt Concern has been asking, what have you been doing with the security vote? We want to see what has been happening. One. Two, even at federal level, we have all sorts of military formations there. Today, as we were discussing in our various community groups about this deployment of the Chief of Army Staff coming, one of the community members said, even when they report intelligence, make intelligence reports, when they hear reports that these terrorists are coming in, they raise the alarm. The soldiers sometimes will wait, because there are already some soldiers in some areas. They will wait until they've done the killings before they will come and they'll pick up the bodies and start crying with the community. Who does that? So there is that, so just to close out on your question, there is that failure of acting on intelligence, because the intelligence is there. I mean, we have drone technology, for goodness sake. Nigeria is not in the dark ages. Why are we not employing this to even prevent the attacks? Why is it that it's the army, and where's the DSS in all of this? Where's the National Security Advisor in all of this? He came a few weeks ago, made some placatory statements, and left. So what is the NSA doing? What in fact is the entire security architecture at state level, at federal level doing? So we believe there's a lack of political will. There's a failure to act, even when there's credible intelligence. And the third reason why this is not being stopped, even after over 10, almost 15 years of these continuing attacks, we honestly have no clue.
And so it begs to ask the question about, you know, the repeated scale of violence that we're seeing in Benue State and just the frequency of it. Although the government, the presidency, and somewhat from the Army's chief move, it's clear there's a severity, there's a bit of attention to it. But should it be declared an act of violence, or rather act of terrorism?
These are terrorist attacks.
Yeah, but you're not giving that. So you're saying that terrorist attack. There's no term. Maybe if there was a bit of term of act of terrorism.
I'm so glad you're asking this, because I want to even appeal to media. You know, this whole idea about bandits, unknown gunmen, came into prominence during General Buhari's time in power. This second time he came. From 2015, when he came in, for some reason, we started hearing the security forces calling these people bandits, unknown gunmen. And these guys are terrorists, we know. In fact, in 2014 or 2015, there was a report released the International Security Index, if I remember correctly, which actually said that the Fulani militia armed groups were considered the third most deadly terrorist group operating in Africa. That report, somehow it came out after a while, it died down, and then there was this it started calling these attacks bandits. They would say, oh, bandits attacked here, bandits attacked there.
It was generalizing to say it was Fulani. It was generalizing.
No, this was just a particular report. Right? So, of course, the questions have arisen. Oh, should it be? But the people who have been attacked, at least in Benue, I can tell you for a fact, there are local militia in some cases where it happened. But largely, overwhelmingly, I've been working on this. I've been in some of those fields. I've actually been in a situation where these Fulani militia kidnapped a young man, made him call his wife on the phone, and were torturing him and speaking him for full day and saying things. They were now translating in Hausa to the wife because some of those people could speak Hausa. Now, we're not saying that all Fulanis are terrorists. That's
right, because that's
not by any stretch. That's not what we're saying. It's just like when they say in the Eastern European conflict, for example, they will say Chechen rebels. That's not what we're saying. But it has been clearly identified, even by the terror victims, in many of the cases, that the people who came, they were Fulani militia. Note, they just identified some of the militia. You now have some groups in some places. So, for example, sometimes in places like Zakibiam, where in the past you've had local militia gangs also now attacking the people. And sometimes there's also no political will to deal with some of those local militia gangs because in the past they've also been used by politicians to help them get into power.
Should this problem be risen to high levels of severity to now be labeled as an act of terrorism?
Absolutely. My belief is that the Benue, the Middle Belt, even parts of they've been under a terror attack for many years.
Right.
And it should be, the severity levels should be raised. Why? Because then that will increase the level of the security response.
Right.
Calling it banditry, unknown gunmen, it's just ridiculous.
I do have to let you go because we're out of time. So I want to ask about, how you expect the government to address this. You are right there in the field and you represent 77 groups that are where this issue affects them at their very core. So how then do you expect the government to address the root causes and what would be the solutions that you prefer to at least address this as quickly as possible? Because 100 lives in 1 week, that is...
Well, time will not permit me because we'd issued out our communique, we'd said some things, we had about 10 demands. But one of the key ones was that if they were overwhelmed in just responding, because our army is overstretched. The army is meant to be protecting on external threats, but they're working so much on internal threats. One of the things was to register and properly train even local groups and make sure that they're armed properly. Because one of the things we have seen happening, and this is where there's a lot of distrust of even the security forces and the Nigerian government, is that the Nigerian government allows headsmen to go around with weapons, AK-47s. They do not apprehend them. And I'm saying this because on national television many years ago, a Minister of Agriculture sat down with me on an interview and actually told me that they were allowing them to go around AK-47s. Because when they move in farms, people attack them and their cattle. So we're like, okay, so what about the farmers who they attack? So our farmers, what happens is, even when they arm themselves of self-defense, the military, the soldiers, they come, they will arrest them if they have machetes, and say they're carrying weapons. Why are you not arresting the headsmen moving around?
So the proliferation of small arms.
So one, there's proliferation of small arms, and also two, there is no clear justice. Even when some of the terrorists have been arrested and handed over to the police, they will tell you, they will release them and say an order came from above. So we need the government to investigate in these instances. Which order? Who is giving this order? Whoever it is should also be apprehended for being an accessory to genocide and terror. Let me stop there.
Yeah, I must say thank you so much for taking out the time to join us. And our heart goes out to the families of the 100 people who lost their lives in Way West and Apa and all the other communities. I must say thank you. Jonathan Echavo, she's the co-convener of the influential Middle Belt Concern, which is comprising of some 77 groups in the North Central. This year we'll take a short break. When we return, authorities in Niger State confirmed recovering 200 bodies from floods. We'll bring you the details of this and more just after the break. Stay with us. Breaking news just reaching us, a nationwide strike by the Judiciary Staff Union of Nigeria, JUNSUN, has been suspended following hours of closed-door negotiations with representatives of the federal government. The meeting, which took place on Tuesday, June 3rd, at the headquarters of the Department of State Services in Abuja, led to the decision to put the industrial action on hold. JUNSUN had embarked on the strike to demand the payment of 5 months' wage awards, implementation of the 70,000 naira national minimum wage, and a 25 to 35% salary increment for judiciary workers. The strike, which began on June 1st, disrupted court activities across several states, with partial compliance observed in some federal institutions. Details of the agreement reached and timelines for implementation are expected to be made public soon. Details will follow in subsequent bulletins. Now let's bring you some news with education, as the House of Representatives Committee on Basic Education Examination Bodies has issued a 24-hour ultimatum to the West African Examinations Council to submit a detailed report on the controversial conduct of the 2025 English language examination across the country. Now this followed the appearance of WAEC's head in Nigeria, Amos Dangote, before the committee, where lawmakers expressed dissatisfaction with how the examination was handled. The committee also directed WAEC to submit its official examination guidelines and clarify what alternative measures are in place when faced with logistical or security challenges.
Have happened with your agency and also the JAM, which also oversight, deserve two of you to resign. I'm not here to mind words, because you have exposed Nigeria to the level that people are laughing at us.
Upon coming for such hearing, the registrar should have even submitted to us a detailed report which covers every single state on what occurred per state, given that they are interested to even know what happened.
Those in support of the motion should say aye. Aye. Those against should say nay. The aye have it. WAEC appeal those documents within the 24 hours to this very revered committee for further legislative business.
We trace that the particular paper in question, we trace where it came from, and then we took the remedial step of replacing it, because it will not be in the best interest to have a paper that some people have unfair or undue advantage over. So
stakeholders in the Southeast have convened a meeting to address the rising concerns about the safety and well-being of Igbo people living in Lagos, particularly in light of the 2023 election. The chairman of the Southeast Governors Forum emphasized the importance of the meeting to avoid a repeat as the 2027 elections draw near. News Central's Igbalani Omoni has more.
The 2023 general election has come and gone, but the effect of the exercise appears to linger. Many interpretations have characterized the aftermath of the last Lagos election, which saw alleged demolition of properties, invasion and fire outbreaks in markets majorly occupied by Igbo people, intimidation at polling units, and other forms of violence. To prevent a repeat, this meeting comes as the Southeast Committee, set up to investigate the incident, presented an executive summary of its report.
Contrary to the popular opinion and belief that it was more like politically motivated, people believe it was driven by some kind of conspiracy. But the truth of the matter is that it's not exactly the truth, in the sense that some other people that are non-Igbos have their properties demolished. What it was was serious, straight up land grabbing. We went as far as encouraging the Lagos state government to have some kind of a unit set up in all these big market clusters where they can self-police themselves.
And the report did not only stop about Yoruba Igbo, it goes about Nigeria. Okay, sustainable Lagos. How do we have peace in Lagos? How do we have an enabling environment for prosperity in Lagos? That is what the committee addressed.
Noting the substantial impact of the Igbo community on Lagos economy, particularly in the areas of trade and commerce, the committee is set to work with the Lagos state government to implement recommendations from the report.
We've just started. There will be incremental awareness. With time, the ugly experience of the past will be forgotten, and the good experiences of the future will govern. Our alliance with the government, Lagos state government, and then an appropriate time will be fixed for final resolution of the matter.
As elections draw near, elders in attendance used the opportunity to offer valuable advice to Igbo indigenes living in Lagos, urging them to remain vigilant and proactive in protecting their rights and interests.
We Igbos in Lagos should be very, very careful. Today is politics with wisdom, not do or die affair.
We will do our best to visit these cities. We will have a large chunk of Igbo settlements to speak to the issue of a united Nigeria, of a progressive Nigeria.
The meeting concluded with a call to action for all stakeholders to work together to prevent future incidents and promote a safe and inclusive environment for all residents of Lagos, regardless of their ethnic background. In Lagos, for News Central, Igbalani Omoni.
The entire GDP.
The All Progressives Congress has ruled out granting incumbent members of the National Assembly automatic tickets to represent the party in the 2027 election. The party spokesperson, Felix Morka, said this in a statement on Tuesday in Abuja, referring to reports in some section of the media as fake news. He urged all party members and the general public to disregard the report and described it as having emanated from a mischievous origin. And off to Niger State, where more than 200 bodies have been recovered following the devastating flood in Morka local government area, according to the state's Commissioner for Humanitarian Affairs, Ahmed Suleiman. Suleiman said recovery efforts are ongoing and that the full casualty figure remains unknown. He confirmed that the Niger State government has activated emergency response measures and ordered the distribution of relief materials to displaced victims now sheltered in makeshift camps. Despite those efforts, victims have expressed frustration over poor living conditions and inadequate food supplies. Some residents have claimed that although they were photographed receiving food aid, they were not given any. However, Governor Umar Bago's administration has dispatched trailers of rice, while the governor's wife has donated 50 million naira during a visit to the affected communities. Meanwhile, days after the devastating flash floods in Morka, many students of an Islamic school located within the community are still missing. News Central Television spoke to a teacher in the school who says that the school is yet to account for several students from the 800 usually in attendance. He says that the missing students added to the floodwaters in this school has compounded their situation, worsening the current tragedy. Our correspondent Joshua Marai has this report.
Before the flood ravaged Morka, this Islamic school echoed with recitations and learning. Today, it is a shadow of its former self.
Makarantar mu dai kamar da yadda muka sani dai akwai wani lokaci da na kirga ɗaliban nan muka samu mutum 800 daga baya irin waɗanda ba sa nan sai suka dawo muka tambaye su me yasa ba su zauna makaranta ba, sai muka samu mutum 70 suka zama 870 kenan.
The flood swept through Morka as families still reel from its after effects and the pain and destruction it left behind. For this teacher, the damage was not just felt on buildings, but also on lives.
Daga nan sai muka fita muna neman wanda ruwa ya wuce da su, sai na je na samu gawan mutum 2. To daga nan kuma mutum 1 muna neman shi ba mu gan shi, amma mun ga lokacin da ruwa ya wuce da shi daga wurin masallaci. To gaskiya abin ba daɗi, dole ne mutum ba zai ji daɗi ba.
Many of the children under his care are between the ages of 5 to 15. He says that he hopes the government will come to their aid.
Kaga abin ba ni kaɗai ya shafa ba, kuma duka gwamnati ita dai al'ummanta ne, kuma duk wani taimakon Allah da zai zo mun sani zai zo ne daga gurin Allah. Ina fatan an gane ko, taimako dai na ubangiji ne, Allah shi ya bayar kuma shi zai ansa ko. To kuma ita gwamnati ta sani dai, ta san gyara, ta san abin da idan ta yi gyara ne, to mu muna roƙon Allah ya bata iko da ta yi mana abin da ya dace, wanda kowa zai amfana da abin da ya same shi kuma zai ji sauƙin raɗaɗin abin da ya same shi.
For this teacher, every name is a prayer and every silence a question. In a flood that took everything, he holds on to faith that the students will return one by one. In Morka, Niger State, for News Central, I am Joshua Imarai.
And off to Edo State, where the government has reintroduced its monthly environmental sanitation 8 years after suspension. The exercise will occur every last Saturday from 7 a.m. to 10 a.m. News Central's correspondent Israel Iferobo reports.
After an 8-year pause, the Edo State government has revived its monthly environmental sanitation exercise, an initiative now being held every last Saturday of the month from 7 a.m. to 10 a.m. Deputy Governor Dennis Itahosa supervised the cleanup exercise.
This exercise must not be seen as a mere routine, but a clarion call and a civic responsibility for each and every one of us to take ownership of our environment, to cherish the land that we call our homes, and to work together for a cleaner, healthier, and more sustainable Edo State that guarantees a healthy living.
To ensure full compliance, 19 mobile courts were set up across the state, where officials say some violators have been prosecuted for violating the order. Managing Director of the State Waste Management Board, Lucky Enehita Inegbenehi, says sensitization is ongoing to get everyone on board.
People talks about sensitization. Sensitizing people from the state, creating awareness here and there, which we have been doing. Almost every day you see me on TV station, you see me on radio station. That's the first P, talking about the people, sensitizing people, and also the work for the people. Work for my employees, so that's the first P. And the second P talks about planet, prioritizing our environment.
Some residents share their thoughts on the exercise.
It is commendable for Governor Modu, the Executive Governor of the state, to reintroduce the environmental sanitation exercise. In fact, Edo State has now become a reference point to other states.
As far as I'm concerned, it's a good development. It makes people to take care of the environment. A lot of diseases will be avoided.
For the past 8 years, this thing has not come much. So for the first time, people come out to clean up their houses, environment. So it was fantastic.
The driver of this vision is His Excellency Senator Monday Okpebholo, the Executive Governor of Edo State. His vision is very clear. He wants to make Edo State the cleanest, the healthiest, and most environmentally friendly. So these are his ways, and this is his vision.
With civic participation, stricter enforcement, plus government support, it is believed and hoped that the reintroduction of the monthly environmental sanitation exercise here in Edo State will mark an era for a cleaner, healthier state. In Benin City, Edo State, for News Central, Israel Iferobo.
promises to unseat President Bola Tinubu at the upcoming 2027 general elections is gaining momentum as former Minister of Transportation Rotimi Amechi, the former Vice President of Nigeria Atiku Abubakar, and the former Governor of Kaduna State Nasir El-Rufai, and several others say that the current administration has impoverished Nigerians, weaponizing poverty and increasing hardship in the country. This was as they converged on the nation's capital, Abuja, for the 60th birthday lecture of the former Minister of Transportation, where they vowed to go ahead with their proposed coalition, saying it will serve as a means to achieve their purpose. Amadin Uyi has more.
It was a gathering of Nigeria's political elites, many of them discontented with the performance of the current APC-led government. The 60th birthday lecture was organized by the former Minister of Transportation, Rotimi Amechi, with the theme, Weaponization of Poverty as a Means of Underdevelopment, a case study of Nigeria. Some present say that the challenges facing the country has become enormous, with Nigeria now facing a crisis.
For all those who are saying, oh, we have to be careful before the country, before we get into a crisis, please wake up. We're living with banditry, with Boko Haram, with APC, and you're still saying that there will be a problem. What are we waiting for now? We are already there. We are already in crisis.
Keynote speakers at the lecture include the former Governor of Kaduna State, Nasir El-Rufai, the former Vice President of Nigeria, Atiku Abubakar, and several other notable personalities. Despite commending Amechi for his birthday celebration, they say that Nigeria is in urgent need of a fix, and informed those present of the need to band together to wrestle power from the current government.
We are all hungry. All of us are. If you're not hungry, I am. You may laugh. So for us, the opposition, if you want us to remove the man in power, we can remove him from this power.
Nigeria is in its biggest problem since 1940. We're together working, conspiring to build a coalition to take Nigeria back on track.
This particular government is weaponizing poverty. You may call me a conspirator, you may call me anything, and that is why we are in this alliance, to make sure we don't allow them to continue weaponizing policy.
The former Minister of Transportation also took a swipe at President Bola Tinubu, accusing him of being incapable of solving the nation's challenges.
President Tinubu said our suffering has come to an end yesterday. Has anybody's diet changed? How many of you can buy a cup of garri at the rate? You know, the problem with Nigeria is, if you say the last president was very bad, the incoming one will be worse.
With talks about forming a coalition ahead of the upcoming 2027 general elections gathering momentum, these political heavyweights, according to Nigerian standards, are positive that they can form a consensus and give the ruling All Progressives Congress a run for their money. In Abuja for News Central, I am Amadin Uyi.
You're watching news now on News Central Television. Coming up, 2 suspected terrorists killed in bomb blast in Uganda. We'll tell you all about this, the details, and more just after the break. Stay with us. And welcome back. Ugandan military officials say 2 suspected terrorists were killed on Tuesday after an explosive device they were carrying detonated during an interception in the capital, Kampala. According to military spokesperson Chris Mangazi, the explosion occurred as security operatives moved in on the suspects. Local media reports that the blast took place near the Muyonyo Martyrs Shrine in the southern part of the city, where crowds had gathered to mark Martyrs' Day, an annual event commemorating Christian martyrs in the 19th century. I beg your pardon. The suspects are believed to be members of the Allied Democratic Forces, a rebel group based in the Democratic Republic of Congo and linked to Islamic State. The group was behind multiple deadly bombings in Uganda in 2021. May 31st marks World No Tobacco Day, a vital reminder of the global fight against the harmful impacts of tobacco use. In South Africa, this issue has taken on an urgent significance, particularly as youth smoking continues to rise, posing serious social and health challenges for the nation. News Central's Bogani Ziziba explores the alarming trend on youth smoking habits in South Africa. Take a look.
In South Africa, the sight of young people holding cigarettes has become all too common. Everywhere you turn, in schools, on the streets, in communities, youths are being hooked early by the grip of nicotine. Smoking is on the rise among learners and the young ones, and it often starts early, leading to serious health consequences later in life, with higher levels of advertising making tobacco products irresistible, especially to impressionable mind.
Okay, I think South Africa is a problem of smoking. Like towards, if you look there, like these days, everyone is smoking. It's more like it's a trending thing. I don't know if it's what, because now there's vapor and Morka pipe and different cigarettes. So everyone is smoking now. It seems like it's a trending thing. So it's bad for community.
I think public smoking, it encourages other young people or learners to smoke. At my school, I don't prefer learners must smoke because it can cause lung cancer and TB and other diseases.
Marking World No Tobacco Day, South Africa's Deputy Minister of Health, Joe Pahla, emphasized the urgent need for action.
Whether it's cigarettes, the traditional cigarettes, whether it's the hookah, whether it's the snuff, the heated tobacco products, the new ones, the e-cigarettes, each one of these carry their own health risk. They may differ in terms of which part of the body especially is targeted, but all of them have particular negative effects on the human body.
According to the World Health Organization, there is no safe level of smoking. The longer one takes, the greater the harm.
Public smoking, I think it's very rude and it's bad for the people like us, because we have issues like medical issues, so it's not good for the environment also.
Minister Pahla said education and regulations are key. South Africa can learn from other countries that have successfully reduced youth smoking through strict laws and bans.
We currently having the Tobacco Products and Electronic Delivery Systems Control Bill in Parliament, which is a critical step to regulate all tobacco and nicotine products comprehensively. Because we came to the realization that indeed all these new products were not covered under the currently existing Tobacco Act.
Meanwhile, the Ministry of Health has proposed a bill in Parliament which aims to strengthen tobacco control measures. It includes provisions for 100% smoke-free indoors, public spaces and specific outdoors areas, bans on vending machine sales, and mandates plain packaging with graphic health warnings. However, current laws allows for the designation of smoking areas in workplaces and certain public places. In Johannesburg for News Central, Bongani Sizima.
Britain's Foreign Secretary David Lammy has raised alarm over what he describes as the world's worst humanitarian crisis, the ongoing war in Sudan. Lammy made the remarks at a high-level forum in Morocco where he criticized what he called the West's deafening silence, citing ambivalence as well as equivocation and certainly an absence of exposure to the crisis. Since April 2023, Sudan has been gripped by a brutal power struggle between the country's regular armed forces and the paramilitary Rapid Support Forces. The war has killed tens of thousands, displaced more than 13 million people, nearly a quarter of the population, and pushed parts of the country to the brink of famine.
Crisis in Sudan, and that flows from Sudan, is the worst humanitarian catastrophe in the world currently, and it is a matter of deep, deep concern that there has been an ambivalence, equivocation, and certainly an absence of exposure to this crisis globally and across much of.
You're watching News Now on News Central Television. Still ahead. Ruling South African PPP candidate Monsoor outlines trade-focused agenda. The details of this will be shared after the break. Stay with us. Welcome back. The ruling People Power Party's candidate, Kim Monsoor, launched his campaign ahead of South Korea's snap presidential election scheduled for June 3rd. As part of his platform, Kim emphasized strengthening economic ties with the United States, highlighting plans to reduce trade barriers if elected. He proposed prioritizing South Korea's trade position by seeking reduced or eliminated U.S. tariffs, aiming to position the country more favorably than other global partners. Kim's campaign strategy focuses on restoring international trade relationships and revitalizing the national economy. The unexpected election follows political upheaval and public calls for new leadership. As the race intensifies, economic policy and foreign diplomacy have become central themes, with candidates seeking to appeal to both domestic voters and international allies.
대통령이 되면 트럼프 대통령을 만나서 이 미국의 관세 자체를 세계 어느 나라보다도 대한민국에 대해서는 관세가 없거나 가장 낮도록 반드시 만들어 내겠습니다, 여러분. 우리 대한민국을 더욱 위대하게 하는 대통령이 되겠습니다. 국민 여러분들께서 더욱 행복하게 살 수 있는 대통령이 되겠습니다.
President Tinubu has introduced a performance-based tax relief framework for Nigeria's oil sector, offering up to 20% tax credits for companies that achieve verifiable cost reductions across operations. Daniel Odu, the International Organization of Standards lead auditor, says producing crude oil involves significant effort, including determining outputs levels as well as labor needs and using hydraulic equipment. Tools like rigs, coils, and skilled workers all contribute to managing overall production costs.
You're going to research how many barrels. You need to have a whole lot of people to actually do those studies and ensure that these things happen according to what was planned.
The Nigerian Football Federation has allayed fears surrounding the absence of several key players ahead of Friday's international friendly match against Russia in Moscow. Super Eagles media officer Promise Efuwe, he confirmed that 6 players, Ola Aina, Wilfred Ndidi, Samuel Chukwueze, Kelechi Iheanacho, Sadiq Umar, and Nathan Teller have been excused from the squad due to injuries and other withdrawal reasons. Despite this, Efuge has emphasized that the team will not be depleted, assuring that preparations remain on track and all will go as planned.
What
except for the withdrawals, which of course we all know about. I sent out a story yesterday talking about the withdrawals, the likes of Kelechi Iheanacho, Samuel Chukwueze, who had to leave camp due to family. They had to go attend to some family matters. They are allowed to because, it's off-season, and certainly at this time, when you've been in Europe playing all season, there might be a lot of things waiting for you at the end of the season to go sort out as far as the family is concerned. Stanley Wabali also had to go back to South Africa.
And that's all we can take on this hour. But before we go, let's take another look at some of the major stories. Nigeria's ruling party, APC, has denied granting automatic tickets to National Assembly members ahead of the 2027 general elections. Chief of Army Staff has relocated to Benue State as attacks by armed herders claim nearly 100 lives in 1 week. And outside our shores, we told you that 2 suspected terrorists have been killed in bomb explosion in Uganda. Now, do remember, they can send us your eyewitness report to the WhatsApp number now showing on the screen. And while you're at it, make sure to follow us on social media. We're at News Central TV on all social media platforms. You can watch News Central live on 5 platforms. First is DSTV channel 422. There's also GoTV channel 23. Star Times as well, channel 274. You can find us on Avo TV and stream us live 24/7 on YouTube. Hey, thanks for watching. I am Judith at TV. I'll see you at 6. Bye for now.